Hello and welcome to another video where I discuss a favorite bit of music kit. In this video I'm going to talk about the mighty Argon8 from Modal Electronics. It is a fabulous synthesizer, a real joy to play with a wonderful FTAR key bed. Everything about it is beautifully made and very high spec, and it is astonishingly reasonably priced. I think these retail now for around €600. That's a lot of synthesizer for that price. I think there's nothing that quite competes with it at the moment. So you have 8 voices of polyphony. The Argon8 is a wavetable synthesizer with an astonishing number of modulation possibilities, a lovely built-in real-time sequencer, a fantastic arpeggiator where you can program in your own arpeggiations. You can use the arpeggiator and the sequencer in tandem together and therefore make very complicated and very interesting polyrhythms and harmonic shapes. It's a very, very fine piece of kit. And the thing I want to talk about is the Lfo 2. There are 2 LFOs, and the second one is polyphonic, which is to say it fires off an LFO for each voice. So in fact it's 8 LFOs in once. So if you play rhythmically and you play notes at different points, the LFO will fire for each one separately rather than re-trigger for all the voices that you're playing. That's actually not the feature I want to look at, although it is an astonishing feature. The feature I want to look at is the Lfo Rate, because it has a facility to go into audio rates with the LFO and does so through divisions and multiplications of the frequency of the note you're playing. And that brings an incredible array of results from quite subtle doubling type sounds and sort of LFOs type rhythmical modulations to quite far out FM and AM sounding modulations and even ring modulation style. I mean, it's its own thing, but it brings you into some quite extreme areas too, as well as thickening textures. You can make lovely sub-oscillators and thickening textures of this kind. You can go from very smooth harmonic type modulations to very, very far out ones. And when you use it with both oscillators, you can move it into almost noise territory. So I've split this off because despite the fact you don't spend much time menu diving, everything is accessible from the front panel, especially when you take into consideration the shift button and the double facilities, the double function of many of the knobs and buttons. You can get to nearly everything. There's a little bit of menu diving, but they tend to be for sort of set and leave type settings for each patch. When you're making the music, you can go directly in from the front panel. It does come with a app that you can use on a laptop or on your iPad if you have one. But you don't actually need it. It's quite nice, gives you a different sort of visual feedback, but you certainly don't need it to get the full whack out of the synth. So, because I did want to look in detail at some of the settings, the film this time does look at the front panel and the display and does include a recording of the sounds as you hear them. So, I hope you enjoy it. Thank you very much. Okay, so to
demonstrate what I like about the LFO2, I'm going to take a initial patch, which is just a sound wave. I prepared an arpeggio, which I'm going to turn on, and I'm also going to turn on the note sustain, which will latch the arpeggio. So the arpeggio is playing now, and I'll add a second note to make it a bit fancier. Okay, so now I'm going to go to wave 1, to the wave table, and I'm going to push it from a sine wave to something closer to a square wave. So we have more harmonics to deal with. I'm then going to go to the filter and take off the higher frequencies. Then I'm going to go to LFO2 and I'm going to map that onto the filter suite at a depth of 64, so that's maximum, just to demonstrate. Then I'm going to start scrolling through the Lfo2 rate, and as you can hear, it's already getting pretty fast and into audible rates. Then after that, we start going into divisions of the frequency of the note that's being played. So what's so great about this setting is that it is of course different for every note. So if I start adding more notes, maybe one in the bass here, and then one higher up, and we start scrolling through the rates here, you'll start to hear these very complex and extraordinary modulation effects, more sort of AM and FM territory and even ring modulation. And with each division, so this is a 16th of the frequency being played, and now an 1/8, and now 3/16, and now a quarter, then 3/8, then a half, which has the effect of being a sub-oscillator. So some of the divisions make very, very strange modulations. Some add layers like this one, and then we start going up to the root. So the strange phase effect is because the LFO is at the same frequency as the oscillators being played. So you can hear very clearly there the speed of the LFO is very different depending on the pitch being played by the arpeggiator. So now we go into multiples. So this is 5 quarters of the frequency of the note. 4/3 is 1.5 times, and here's 2, which always brings extremely interesting effects. And then here's 2.5, where we go back into this sort of ring modulatory type territory. So I'll just quickly demonstrate that with just single sustained notes. So, very important to add that LFO2 is polyphonic, so each key that you play triggers a new LFO. So it's actually 8 LFOs in one. So I'll just play a higher note here, and you can hear very clearly the difference in LFO speed, because the LFO speed is a division of the frequency. So you can hear all kinds of interesting and complex buzzing, moving from very inharmonic to very harmonic sounding. So here we go into the multiples rather than, so there's double the frequency and 2.5. And you know, when you start to mix in a second oscillator and use the oscillator modulation on the synth, you can even start producing things that are close to white noise. Fantastic feature on one of my very, very favorite musical instruments, the Argon8 from Modal Electronics. Thank you very much.